What is up, duelists? Arts and Crops here today with your daily dose of Yu-Gi-Oh! GOAT format action. Today's high-rated dueling book GOAT format ladder matches between Gororo and Zatatog 887. As always, both players rated in the top 200 spots on the ladder at the time this match was played. Let's jump right into it. Got some hot rock, paper, scissors action for you that Zatatog is going to take down. Choose to go first, as is standard. They're going to lead out with a Pot of Greed, so off to an early start in terms of card advantage, going +1. We're going to normal summon a giant rat here, so signifying possibly Panda Burn, possibly Earth Aggro, or probably what you're thinking about here. If you're Gororo, I'm going to set a back row as well. Gororo has a Pot of Greed of their own to answer Zatatog, so equal on card advantage so far for both players. We're going to normal summon Exiled Force, which is a nice clean way of dealing with the giant rat. Rat's floating effect only triggers when it's destroyed by battle, so Exile just destroying it outside of the battle phase deals with it nicely. It's going to set some back row pass. Exiled Force doesn't really signify too much about what they're on, just means they're probably not on Chaos Turbo, but most other decks in the format like to play Exiled outside of like combo stuff that doesn't really care about it. So Zatatog here, not too much info given up as well. They're going to get hit by a Trap Dust Shoot here, though. We're going to be able to see what both players are rocking in their hands here. Zatatog looks like they are just playing straight up Earth aggro here. Hand is Call of the Haunted, Injection Fairy Lily, Goblin Attack Force, Gigantes, Mystic Swordsman level 2, and a Smashing Ground. So tons and tons of action here. For Gororo, what you snag here is probably going to be dependent on A, what your deck is, and B, what these back row are. Your hand is Magician of Faith, Call of the Haunted, Mystic Swordsman of your own. So, not really sure what Gororo is playing. They could be playing Warrior with main deck Magician of Faith is probably the most likely thing. But it could also be like some sort of Go Controller, Chaos Control list, because those will often play Exiled and Mystic Swordsman. So let's think what you grab here. Lily is, of course, the biggest threat in terms of just raw damage. You could pretty easily deal with the Goblin Attack Force just by attacking over it. Gigantes is annoying in terms of just like summoning a bunch of stuff right off the bat. Mystic Swordsman deals with your Magician of Faith, so honestly, I feel like good reasons to take a lot of these cards. It's just going to be based on what you have in the back row, which we do not have the ability to see. So they're going to snag the Mystic Swordsman, prioritizing resolving their Magician of Faith to grab a Pot of Greed again, which I think makes sense. It's kind of the strongest play you have available to you at the moment. So Mystic Swordsman is going to be set back, but a lot of aggressive threats here in Zatatog's hand that will probably hit the board here. We're going to go and normal summon that Goblin Attack Force, choosing not to summon the Gigantes, playing around potential Torrential Tribute, potential Mirror Force, which I think is totally fine. I'm just going to get in for 2300. Oh, we've got a Scapegoat here, so Goat Control / maybe Chaos Control out here for Gororo. Good matchup. Playing Scapegoat into Earth aggro is quite strong, so Gororo, I think, definitely favored out of the gate here, just based on the interaction between the two decks. And Scapegoat is quite good into Goblin Attack Force, because, of course, it just gets turned to defense and doesn't actually get to do any damage. So pretty happy here if you're Gororo, especially resolving the Dust Shoot and knowing what your opponent's rocking with. Choosing to resolve a Goblin Attack Force attack, it's going to get swapped into defense position, be pretty much exposed, and we know there's at least Mystic Swordsman level 2 in hand for Gororo to beat over that if they choose to go that route. But one token being dealt with from Zatatog, so slight sort of card advantage here for Zatatog, but nothing really to write home about, and this Goblin Attack Force is probably not too long for this world. We know that set is Call of the Hunted, I think. The other one is unknown. So I guess if it's like Sakuretsu armor or something to protect the Goblin Attack Force, going for this play could potentially make sense. Gororo here. Let's see, just going to go set a monster pass, probably the Magician of Faith. You know your opponent has no outs to it unless they top deck something, or that unknown set is like a bluff set knock or something like that, which seems unlikely. Oh, they grab a Reinforcement of the Army, though, so they can just go ahead and grab that Mystic Swordsman right back, and that's what we're going to see. Going to search it up, and then normal summon it, and this Magician of Faith is now going to hit the grave. Mystic Swordsman effect will trigger, preventing the flip effect from happening. Ooh, but the last set was Mirror Force here, so Gororo Not even worried about the Mystic Swordsman, had the Mirror Force for backup, and this Faith will be able to resolve. Now, Mirror Force is one of those cards that you can get a ton of advantage off of against aggro decks. So using it just as a straight 1-for-1 isn't, the most high value, but you're probably pretty happy having already resolved a Scapegoat, and knowing that this is protecting your Magician of Fate that's able to grab a Pot of Greed. So looking pretty good for Gororo here. We do have the Call of the... I guess we do have the known Call of the Haunted, though, which is going to get rid of the Faith. So, yeah, Mirror Force protecting slightly. You do force them to use their Call of the Haunted just on this Mystic Swordsman. But pretty solid play here from Zatadog to, make it so Gororo's unable to recur that Pot of Greed, keeping them in it. They still have a lot of goat tokens to get through, but Gororo isn't just going to be able to outcard advantage them super quickly, as we previously thought was going to happen. Default play here, we're going to get Normal Summon Mystic Swordsman level 2. You want to go and kill this Goblin Attack Force before they're able to switch it back to attack position. That's what we're going to see. This Unknown Set, though, could get in the way. Is it like Book of Moon or something? No, we're just going to let it go through. If it's Sakuretsu Armor, I feel like you just kind of have to use it, probably. But the Mystic Swordsman is just going to go kill that Goblin Attack Force. And Gororo is starting to stabilize here, able to wall out the opponent. There is stuff like Gigantes and stuff coming through, but just keeping these goats around, able to wall out the damage while you kind of draw your answers. You're pretty happy here as Gororo, I think. Zatadog is going to go and special summon Ye Old Gigantes, banishing that Goblin Attack Force. Not sure if you run Premature Burial in your deck, but kind of an interesting choice. You got to choose between summoning the Giant Rat, potentially off of a future Premature Burial, versus a Goblin Attack Force, so opting to save the Rat in case of that scenario. But Gigantes is going to be able to beat over the Mystic Swordsman, and then Mystic Swordsman is going to kill one of the remaining goat tokens. Add a back row pass here, and Gororo, your goats are all about to die here, so you do kind of need to make a play to protect them, potentially. We do have that Call of the Haunted that we knew about here. Looks like we're going to probably grab Exiled Force with it to pop the Gigantes. Actually choosing to pop the Mystic Swordsman, so must have drawn some sort of set monster here that they are looking to resolve. Maybe another Magician of Faith would be pretty good. Gravekeeper Spy would be quite solid as well to help stabilize. If they're on that, not every, control deck plays Spy, but definitely a solid option against these aggro decks. And yeah, it looks like they wanted to clear the way for this set monster. Sorry, I moused over it. We see it's Cyber Jar, which is a little interesting. We're going to get Normal Summon Tribe Infecting Virus, though, and Gigantes will just run right into that Cyber Jar, and that will blow up the board. So Zatadog running an extra monster into the Cyber Jar, so going a little bit minus there. But this will also clear out all of Gororo's goat tokens. And we'll see how this resolves. Cyber Jar, the quickest way to complicate a board state, of course. Gororo hits. Okay, interesting list here. We got main deck Ninja Grandmaster Sasuke here in presumably just goat control. We haven't seen any Thunder Dragons yet, so unlikely it's Chaos Control. And you're probably not playing like Cyber Jars in Chaos Control normally. Usually there's not room for that. Nor are you playing Mystic Swordsman main deck in most goat control lists. But Cyber Jar is going to hit 2 monsters, a Magician of Faith with some really good stuff in grave, and some really good stuff going to hand. And it's going to hit a Ninja Grandmaster Sasuke, which is kind of interesting to see in the main deck, but that'll hit the field. And then Zatadog, let's see, what do we hit? A DD Assailant, Giant Rat are both going to hit the field here. So yeah, we get the Giant Rat, the DD Assailant. Going into the hand are Gigantes, which could just be summoned out here in main phase 2 if they want, as well as Trap Dust Shoot, which will have tons of cards in hand for Gororo, so that'll be super live. And a Nobleman of Crossout, which is very good when you know your opponent is rocking that Magician of Faith that they just got off of Cyber Jar. So, honestly, probably advantage to Zatadog here, just because they got the knock on the Faith. They can't beat over the Ninja Grandmaster just yet, so that's kind of walling them out for the time being, which could be a saving grace here for Gororo, but we'll see how it plays out, I should say. And Gororo did find a duo as well, which is quite nice. That knock, of course, not going to be doing too much against an Earth aggro list, so you're kind of fine with that. And yeah, Gororo has the choice here between, I think the intuitive play is set Magician of Faith, set Ninja Grandmaster, but you could be kind of coy, right? Because your opponent has no limit of crossout, so they could just go, if you do face up attack position, Ninja Grandmaster, face down defense position, Magician of Faith, you can just go straight to main phase 2 and then knock and hit Magician of Faith 100% of the time in main phase 2, right? But Gororo could be a little bit tricky here. Set both Faith and Ninja Grandmaster, so it's only a 50-50 of hitting Faith with the knock. Sure, Ninja Grandmaster won't be able to wall out the attacks, because it'll just die to either attack from Giant Rat or DD Assailant. But it could coax your opponent into just trying to, instead of risking the 50-50, they might want to attack first, and then they could just run into your Faith, and you get to recur your Pot of Greed instead. So Gororo being tricky here, I think it makes sense to set both of them, just because I think resolving Pot of Greed is probably really good, or even getting back Scapegoat doesn't sound terrible, especially now that you know that Tribe Infecting Virus is gone, and Call of the Haunted is gone, so you're really only worried about Premature coming in to clear out your goat tokens. So I like this play out of Gororo. Zetatog, you gotta make the choice. Are you gonna go 50-50 knock here, or are you gonna try and attack, get some damage in? You can even go for a 50-50 attack if you hit the Ninja Grandmaster. You'll get the 100% knock on the Faith in main phase 2. Tough choice, but we're gonna go attack. 50-50 here, hits the Ninja Grandmaster, and it all works out fine for Zetatog. Now you can just go main phase 2 and knock the Faith. So risky play here, not paying off for Gororo. That could be what kind of, turns things in their favor, in Zatatog's favor, even though Gororo was able to resolve their Cyberjar and wipe the board. But there are lots of cards in hand here, which definitely favors the more controlling deck in the matchup. Although Zatatog has tons of gas here. A couple monsters on board. Yeah. Setting a card here, your opponent has Duo as well, so you might even just want to set high-value spells and stuff just to protect them from Duo. Although Heavy Storm would be pretty crazy out of Gororo here, if that's the case. No, it's just going to be that Dust Shoot that we knew about getting set. That makes total sense. And we'll see what Gororo is rocking with. We have known Duo, known Meta, known Knock. And then the unknowns in hand were a Tsukuyomi, which isn't doing a whole lot right now, but will be the card that gets sent back with the Trap Dust Shoot. And then they have Reinforcement of the Army to grab some useful warrior monster. So this is, I guess, Goat Control playing a warrior package, which is not super uncommon, right? There are just a lot of good one-off warriors to get with Rhoda, even if you're not running a full warrior tribal list. You have Rhoda for Exiled, Rhoda for Ninja Grandmaster, Rhoda for Mystic Swordsman, Rhoda for DD Warrior Lady. All are really good targets. And all are just generally good cards in control lists, probably anyway, outside of like Ninja Grandmaster maybe. But yeah, Tsukuyomi's gonna get someone back because that's the only choice, of course. But Gororo can now just search up something good with this Rhoda, probably, is what we'll see. Gonna lead out with that Duo though. See what they hit in the opponent's hand. They snagged the known Gigantes. So Gororo did have the choice to potentially summon it to protect against Duo, but choosing not to go that route. And now they have to choose to discard something. They discard the known Lily as well. If you were paying better attention than me, there's a good chance we know this last remaining card in hand. But I'm not entirely sure, so I'm not going to reveal it. But hopefully Gororo knows. Lily hitting the grave, though. Now Gororo is going to go use that Rhoda, grab a DD Warrior Lady. Great way of dealing with Giant Rat as well. Can also deal with the DD Assailant that way, but choosing to use it on the Rat. We've got Ring on the DD Warrior Lady to keep their entire board alive and apply a little bit more life point pressure to Gororo as well. So Zatatog really navigating this Cyberjar resolution pretty well so far. Looks like their board is going to remain intact, and Gororo is almost at half life already, so keeping this aggression up. Gororo setting a card. We'll see what Zatatog does. Just going to go ahead and swing in. It's pretty much always going to be that Scapegoat that we knew about. You just want to start eating away at those tokens. You can kill 2 right here. You know, Metamorphosis is probably going to be coming in from Gororo, which is quite a good way to deal with the giant rat, for example. Oh, and so I guess shuffling back to Tsukuyomi was actually super relevant because Gororo could have set up the classic Thousand Eyes Restrict plus Tsukuyomi combo, allowing them to suck in a new monster every turn while applying pressure with the Tsukuyomi. So yeah, shuffling back Tsuk was relevant for just a couple turns down the line here. Yeah, so meta's going to come in, tribute a goat token to summon out good old Thousand Eyes Restrict. Gonna suck in probably the giant rat here is my guess. Yeah. Because you know you didn't want to suck in the DD Assailant, attack over rat. That doesn't seem like a very good play. Yeah, now you can just crash into the DD Assailant and suck it in next turn. This is actually really nice sequencing, right? Because you don't DD Assailant banishes whoever defeats it in battle, right? But this way, you're actually losing in battle to it. It'll get your giant rat in the grave, in your opponent's grave, without triggering its effect. And then next turn, you can suck in the DD Assailant, and you'll have a 1700 beater here to pressure your opponent's life points. So the classic scapegoat meta combo coming in clutch here for Gororo, starting to stabilize here. They're only at 4,200 life points, but looks like Zatatog might be running out of gas here. We got normal summon Sangan here, which is a little bit interesting, but you know, might as well just use your normal summon that turn, get it on board. Yeah, interestingly, no. Oh no, we do have a Dark Engrave here in Cyberjar. Probably not Chaos Control that Gororo is running, but likely is rocking BLS, so the fact that they're on Chaos is definitely still relevant. But Sangan searching Tsukuyomi would be pretty solid. So just getting that on board, hoping that they can get its effect off at some point. Zatatog, ooh, Exiled Force is a really nice card to deal with Thousand Eyes Restrict. So just going to pop it with the Exiled effect. DD Assailant can kill the remaining goat token to prevent another like top deck Metamorphosis from having Thousand Eyes hit the board again. Now Sangan could just crash itself into DD Assailant next turn, but now with no Thousand Eyes on the board, Tsukuyomi isn't that really good of a search, right? It doesn't. DD Assailant is nice because it has more than 1100 defense, so it doesn't die to Tsukuyomi like a lot of traditional like warrior monsters do. It's one of the advantages of playing Earth Aggro over warrior is you're a lot less vulnerable to Tsukuyomi than the other kind of preeminent beatdown deck in the format. But there could be some other stuff you might want to search here. Ooh, we've got Premature Burial with lots of good targets. Ninja Grandmaster could just beat over the DD Assailant. Exiled Force could just pop it. Let's see what we opt to go with. Might as well. Huh. Okay, so we're going to grab the Exiled Force. If the plan is just to tribute Exile to pop the DD Assailant, you might as well just go with the Ninja Grandmaster, right? Because then you deal with the monster and you get an additional 100 damage. It's probably not going to matter too much. But it's not like you don't have any other Resurrection cards in deck with Call and Premature already being used. So the optimal play, just to get in 100 more damage, is probably the Ninja Grandmaster here. Unless you're just like really... I mean, I guess playing around Mirror Force is probably better than the 100 damage, I guess, is probably the thought, especially when you're not the aggro deck. So maybe that's the play here, going with the Exiled. It's just Tornado anyway, though, so that's not going to resolve. So never mind. Doesn't really matter. Didn't even have to choose to... I guess, no, they did choose to target the Exiled Force, but just Tornado Chain, popping Premature before it enters the battlefield. And now Gororo, choosing not to crash and search, just going on the defensive here, wants to wall out this DD Assailant. I think it makes sense. Like I said, there aren't any super high value search targets here that I can think of. So there's no need to go for it right this second. So you'd rather just have another turn of preventing damage from coming through here by turning the Sang into defense position. Zatatog here with all of the momentum in their favor, just the Sangan walling them out for the moment. Smashing Ground is interesting, but maybe you can just push for game here. Yeah, you probably can just push for game. Smashing Ground was the last card in hand, right? That we knew about. Right, I forgot about that. But yeah, so Smashing Ground's going to come through. Gororo knew about that. But, you know, obviously, probably not really any way to play around it. You could have set Sangan. That's actually an interesting thing to think about. You could have set Sangan instead of normal summoned it. I mean, I guess because you knew your opponent had Smashing Ground, which, I mean, in a vacuum, your opponent's Smashing Ground, using Smashing Ground to clear out your Sangan is like fine because it's actually a negative for them, right? Because you get the Sangan search. But you're really just, you want to use Sangan here to wall out. And I know hindsight is 2020, but I think the ability of Sangan to just wall out some damage is probably better than trying to play around the known knock. Like if Gororo is at 8k, I think summoning Sangan is probably good here. But when you know you're really just one monster away from losing, you could make the argument that setting Sangan is correct to play around Smashing Ground plus monster for game, right? Gororo will get the chance to summon a Sinister Serpent here. Zatatog, oh, doesn't actually have game. So just wanting to get the 1700 points of damage in here? That's really interesting. I feel like you would just... Huh. I guess now top deck monster next turn would be game, but that would be the case anyway. Well, no, I guess it wouldn't be the case. Okay, so this does set up for top deck monster being game next turn. Right. Because now they set Sinister, but now they're at 1700, so whatever other monster can beat over the Sinister, and you have DD Assailant for game. Whereas if you just attacked over Sangan, they would still be at 3400, and then top deck monster puts them down to like roughly the same amount of life points here. So going negative with the Smashing Ground to set up lethal with a top deck monster is honestly kind of the sort of play you need to set up with aggro decks, right? When you're playing into control decks, because you just need to push through the damage because you don't win the long game, right? So I think this is probably fine, even though you're going negative in card advantage. You did have a card to spare here, of course. You were up a card anyway. And now you're potentially setting up for game. Set card could be interesting depending on what it is as well. But we'll see what Gororo ends up drawing. We know Serpent in hand. Tribe Infecting Virus with the Serpent is pretty strong, though. Going to use that effect, discard Sinister, clear out that DD Assailant. And now this Tribe can start getting in for some damage. It's for 16. Have you stabilized here? Is Tribe plus Serpent enough for Gororo to turn the corner here? Ring is gone, so the most common form of reach for Zatatog is out of the question. But you are just sitting on 1700 life points. There is still like Graceful Charity in deck, so Zatatog has some outs here for sure. Smashing Ground on the Tribe is certainly a card. Do we have monster per game? No, we're going to set a back row pass. Call of the Hunted should still technically be on the board, right? Because that was used on the Exiled Force, right? A while ago. And Exiled Force doesn't destroy itself, it tributes itself. It's almost definitely not going to matter, but probably, might as well just play correctly, is my thought, right? Sinister showing tons of value here for Gororo, allowing them to just block a monster's worth of damage every turn. We're just going to T-set pass, likely that Sinister here in face-on defense position. Zatatog draw pass, running out of monsters here. Earth Aggro plays a lot more normal summons and just a lot more monsters in general than like a warrior list does. They're built quite differently from that perspective. So running out of monsters here is a little bit frustrating probably for Zatatog because your deck is built to just consistently apply pressure, use up your normal summon every turn. So the fact that you're unable to, this might be giving Gororo the kind of opportunity that they need to turn the table, stabilize, and close this game out. We're going to get Flip Summon Sinister Serpent. That's interesting. Oh, okay, so we can just normal summon Tsukuyomi, which they just hard drew after getting it spun back from Dust Shoot a while ago. And this is just to apply pressure. Flip summon Sinister Serpent, normal Tsukuyomi so that its effect can target a monster that isn't itself. So you can just attack in for 1100 damage while keeping your defensive wall up. And that's fine. These are the sort of like weird plays you kind of have to make with Chaos decks late in the game when you just kind of have like bits and pieces of plays left. But I like applying a little bit of pressure here. Adding another back row here too. So all shields are up here for Gororo. Zatatog really needs to close it out before the stabilization comes through. Delinquent Duo is going to come out here for Zatatog. So waiting until the Sinister Serpent was out of hand to use it, which I think makes sense. I mean, you probably should have used it last turn though, because it's like 90% chance that the set monster was Sinister, right? But I guess now that you know for sure, this is probably the best time to duo. At least you rip out that Tsukiyomi to prevent them from applying the pressure, give you a little bit more time to draw a monster. Looks like Zatatog doesn't have one here, though. Just going to have to set a back row pass again. Now, Gororo, their clock is gone. We're going to get Flip Summon Sinister Serpent. We're just going to start attacking in with Sinister. Okay. 300 a turn. A little bit risky, because now you have an attack position monster for Zatatog to deal some damage over. You lose to Goblin Attack Force over a Sinister, for example. But hopefully some of their back row is enough to protect that. Zatatog, we've got... Okay, all right. Dust Tornado effect. 50-50 on the back row. Pops the newer one. Hits a Ring of Destruction. Okay. Probably not the best card for Gororo to have. You'd probably rather have hit the other one, depending on what it was. Because Gororo, of course, was at very low life. A lot of the potential ring targets from Zatatog would have just killed Gororo. So, not the most high value Dust Tornado, but you are clearing out a little bit of back row to potentially make a play here. And there's the Goblin Attack Force I was just talking about. So Gororo, you gotta hope you have an answer here. Otherwise, this Flip Summon Sinister Serpent does not look pretty strong. No way. Huh. That seems like an interesting call there. You just had no answer to Goblin Attack Force Kill Your Sinister, which is a card that Earth definitely plays at 3, right? And you've only seen one so far. So honestly, Goblin Attack Force is one of the more likely monsters for them to draw at this point in the game. And Ring isn't an out to it, right? Because Ring would have killed yourself and not even gotten the draw with your opponent at 2,500. So that Flip Summon Sinister, not looking like the best play. And it ends up... I mean, you could make the argument that if they didn't start applying pressure, they could have lost later on. But, like, I don't know. Just seems like a pretty massive risk when you apparently didn't have an out to Goblin Attack Force. But Zatatog taking down game 1 here. Getting stabilized against, but finding the one last opening they needed with the Goblin Attack Force over the opponent's attack position, Sinister Serpent, to close out the game. Gororo probably going to want to take that one back, but they do get the opportunity to go first here in game 2. Here on what I'm thinking is just like a warrior... Is Goat control with a warrior sub-theme with the Rhoda package, which is pretty common to see, versus just straight up Earth aggro here. So pretty cool matchup. Two, popular meta decks if you look at the goatformat.com Discord. But they're probably two of the less popular of the popular meta decks. So it's interesting to see this matchup that you don't see every day. And Gororo on the Scapegoat deck is always going to be favored against the aggro deck. But losing game 1 here is going to be pretty nice for Zatatog. Now you just have to kind of steal one of the last 2 games to take down the match, which you're probably pretty happy with. Gororo here going to lead out with Delinquent Duo, though. Earth, one of the decks that doesn't really deal with Duo particularly well. They don't really run any solid discard outlets like Sinister Serpent or anything like that. So this is probably just going to get full value here. Hitting a reinforcement of the army, which is pretty nice. It's like, okay, now you just lost the best warrior in your deck, basically. And Zatatog going to discard a Smashing Ground. Okay. Smashing Ground, kind of an interesting card. It's obviously not very good when your opponent has resolved Scapegoat, but it could be good to push through a little bit of extra damage in certain scenarios. Using it, interestingly, last game declared a Sangan, which you don't see every day, but I think it was probably the right call. But one copy of Smashing Ground hitting the grave here for Zatatog. Gororo here, going to go ahead and normal summon a Sangan, set a back row. Age-old question of turn 1, do you summon Sangan versus set Sangan? Set Sangan is generally what you want to be doing if you have other high-value flips in hand, like Keeper Spy, Magician of Faith. You'd want to set Sangan to potentially bait out stuff like Mind Control and Nobleman of Crossout that your opponent might be playing. Summon Sangan is... if you have nothing else really going on in your hand like that, and you want to make sure your Sangan sticks around and is annoying and it can maybe pressure your opponent, or if you just really need to get the Sangan search off, so you don't want them to knock it really badly. Because if you have something like Tribe Infecting Virus in hand and you really want that Sinister Serpent, Summon Sangan is probably the way to go here. So just some stuff for Zatatog to think about. It's why would they be normal summoning Sangan here? They probably don't have any super live flips in hand. at least at the moment. But they probably really want to get this search off. So you might want to try and deny that if you have the ability to. Oh, and Dust Shoot here going to resolve here for Guerrero. Let's see what both players are rocking. Okay, so Guerrero here. Yeah, so this was not a I really need to search up a specific card with my Sangan, because Tsukuyomi and Sinister Serpent are generally the two cards that you see searched with Sangan most of the time, unless you're running Spy, which we didn't see in game one from Guerrero. But we're summoning Sangan because if they knock Sangan, you really don't have too much going on otherwise. So I think that summon Sangan here is totally fine. They see an opponent's hand of Gigantes, DD Assailant as the two monster targets, as well as a knock. So dodging knock on Sangan ended up being pretty solid, getting rewarded for that basically immediately. And then they see, yeah, I mean, you can just take out the DD Assailant, and then Gigantes is super dead. And then you know about Dust Tornado, but you have no spells or traps in your hand, so totally fine there. So Gororo, you're pretty happy here with this Dust Shoot resolution, the classic duo plus Dust Shoot combo. A lot of discussion between if you open duo shoot, what order should you use them in, right? I think it's always correct to use shoot first if you're playing a deck that can just kind of set their whole hand turn one, like if you're playing against Warrior or something like that. Duoing. Yeah, shooting first makes sense because then, or sorry, you want to duo first if they're playing Warrior, right? Because there's no guarantee that they can just set everything. If they're able to just set everything, you might not be able to get duo on turn two, right? Because they just won't have any cards in hand, right? But Earth is not like Warrior. Earth actually plays a ton of monsters, so it is pretty often like they do play a lot of back row, right? But not as much as Warrior. As we saw last game, tons of monsters that Zatotog drew throughout the course of the game. So Dust Shoot is often live for longer, and most people will keep in Shoot against Earth Aggro more so than they will. Yeah, Shoot is pretty much always an insta side out against Warrior most of the time. But you can often keep it in against Earth Aggro because they play a lot more monsters, so it's going to be live more frequently. You could. The argument for shooting before Duo is that Dust Shoot can rip out cards that will protect against Duo if they're running like Night Assailant, Sinister Serpent, stuff like that. Thunder Dragon potentially, although that doesn't really matter too much, Thunder Dragon specifically. But like I said before, when Gororo used that duo, Earth is one of those decks that doesn't really play any way of defending against duo for the most part. So there's nothing you would really want to snag out of the hand here with the Dust Shoot ahead of time to make sure your duo gets full value. It's basically always just going to resolve for full value here. So in order to prevent the risk that, just in case Zatotog has the chance to, if they open a back row heavy hand, set everything to play around Dust Shoot or to play around Duo, I think opening with Duo here makes sense first. That was a lot of words to describe that, and I probably didn't explain it particularly well. But I think in this scenario, against this match, Duo over Dust Shoot first makes complete sense here. And now they can just send back this DD Assailant, and Gigantes is super dead, and they have nothing going on. So Gororo off to a really good start here. The Sangan can start getting in for a lot of damage if Zatotog's unable to find anything to deal with it. And Tsukuyomi here, yeah, this set is probably Dust Tornado. So no way of interacting with this. You can start dealing 2100 damage a turn. And this is a very real clock for Zatotog with a pretty bricked hand at the moment. Duo push shoot doing its thing, of course. Ooh, Zatotog did just end up... I hope they shuffled. I didn't check. Not going to check the log. But DD Assailant has probably played at 3 in this deck anyway, so it's not super unlikely that they drew it. But the Assailant is going to go ahead and kill that Sangan. Gororo will grab a copy of Exiled Force, which is a solid target, especially with Tsukuyomi and Serpent already in hand. And it's a nice clean way of dealing with the DD Assailant that Tsuk does not do. Of course, we know that Gororo has Tribe plus Serpent in hand, which can deal with this quite effectively as well. But you could always save that for later to get more value out of it, is maybe what Gororo is thinking. So we'll see. Do you go Tribe plus Serpent here, or do you just go Exiled Force? Probably depends on what those unseen draws that they've had already were. Okay, Graceful is quite a good card when you have Sinister Serpent in hand. It's going to go ahead, discard Serpent plus that Tsukuyomi, which is kind of dead at the moment. Makes total sense. And now you can just go Exiled, pop the DD Assailant, and hold on Tribe for later when you get Serpent back in hand to get the free discard. It's probably the correct sequencing here, unless you drew something else that deals with DD Assailant even better. Okay, we're going to go MST on the back row, hit that likely Dust Tornado. Yeah, no bluff set knock coming out here. So you know knock is still in hand. Okay, we're going to set 2 back row pass. I guess opting to save the Exiled Force for later, and the plan is to just wait to get Sinister back next turn. Use our life points to our advantage here, take a hit maybe, but then you can cleanly deal with the DD Assailant, or cleanly plus here, just by summoning Tribe using Sinister. So I think it makes sense. You're at 6,300 life, so you have some time to spare to kind of go for the value maxing play. I don't hate being greedy here for sure. Especially because, you know, DD Sound is the only threat that they have. So, at least pending this top deck, right? But yeah, Assailant will hit in for 17. Oh, we had the Sakuretsu armor to deal with it cleanly anyway. So, Gororo just having a million answers here. Honestly, wouldn't be surprised to just see like normal summon Tribe start getting in for 16 just to continue to apply pressure. That doesn't seem terrible for Gororo. Ooh, but Zatatok has the normal summon King Tiger, which of course is very good against Scapegoat specifically, but also against a lot of other cards in the deck. Exiled Force gets popped by it as well. Ro can grab back that Sinister Serpent, though, and notably, the one card that, or the one major card in Gororo's hand that King Tiger does not deal with is Tribe Infecting Virus. Oh, also Kaiku. Kaiku is quite good as well. That's going to go ahead beat over the King Tiger. Kind of an interesting card to side in or keep in against Earth. Obviously, I don't know what the exact 55 is, so maybe it's the play. But Kaiku gets beaten over by a lot of what Earth plays. But I guess banishing, because you know they're on call plus premature plus Gigantes, banishing their graveyard is a little bit valuable here. So I can see, depending on the 55, Kaiku making the cut post side in a go control list. But Kaiku's gonna hit in here. It's gonna banish DD Assailant, which isn't too bad. And does prevent, I guess it does prevent Gigantes from getting summoned as well. Which is pretty nice, because that is one of the major beaters that can get over Kaiku. So it kind of protects itself via the effect against Earth. So yeah, Kaiku against Earth seems good enough. Zatadog's just going to go ahead, set a back row pass. Gororo here. Normal summon Breaker the Magical Warrior. Can we pop the back row, or are we going to get value? Hitting the bluff set Nobleman of Crossout. Sure. It is what it is. Knock, honestly, not super good against Gororo's deck. I think the only flip we saw so far was Magician of Faith, right? Which, you know, having knock in for Faith is probably fine, right? But it's a more aggressive go control list that's playing like a warrior package. It's playing Kaikus and stuff. So knock not at its best in this matchup, and just getting run out here to get popped by Breaker feels kind of bad. And I mean, look at how many cards up Gororo is here. This is kind of a beating here in game 2. Duo plus Dust Shoot, of course, is quite strong. Graceful plus Serpent, quite strong. And Zatatog just didn't really have too much going on for them, for the most part. And now they can continue to apply pressure here. Kaiku will banish the last Earth monster in Grave, so turning off Gigantes, even if Kaiku's dealt with. And this is quite a big clock every turn as well, hitting in for, what is this, 34? Yep, and this is lethal on board, so Zatatog back against the wall. Do we have an out? Heavy Storm to clear at the back row. Hits a Torrential Tribute. Okay, so now you could potentially make a play. Show me Goblin Attack Force, maybe. Okay, we've got Rhoda, the second one. Rhoda for Goblin Attack Force. Okay. Kill Kaiku. Summon Gigantes main phase 2 as the wall. Goblin Attack Force is just going to get run over by Breaker on the kickback. But at least you've prevented them from killing you this turn. And that's probably the only play that they really had left. Gororo. Okay, so yeah, this is just game. Yeah, and we knew about the Tribe in it anyway. So no back row from Zatatog means Tribe, kill the Goblin Attack Force, attack for game was a live play into no back row. And game 2 here goes for Gororo, and not very close, right? But that is what opening Duo plus Dust Shoot can do. Just completely turning off everything Zatatog was trying to do. They will get the chance to go first here in game 3, which aggro decks love to do. So we'll see if they can use that going first advantage to continually apply pressure as the deck wants to do. Or will Gororo just be able to absorb that pressure, stabilize, turn the corner? Last game we didn't even see that. It was just they were ahead from the beginning and never let up. But typical play patterns, right, are Zatatog will get out to an aggressive start. Gororo tries to answer, stabilize, and turn the corner. So we'll see if we end up seeing a, standard kind of match here in game 3. Zatatog is just going to lead out with normal summon Giant Rat. We haven't seen a single rat resolve at all this game. Gororo doing a really good job playing around it. It's kind of annoying, but decks like Go Control do have a lot of outs to rat besides just beating over it, which we've seen so far. Stuff like Exiled Force, stuff like Thousand Eyes Restrict are all ways to do it. Stuff like DD Warrior Lady. So rat, not super duper high value, but it is like at least a wall against some of the more aggressive cards that Gororo is playing. Gororo does have the Exiled Force here as well, so we're still not going to see a rat effect resolve. You definitely can't normal summon twice in a turn, but I appreciate the attempt. And now Zatatog knows that there's a Sangan in hand, so we'll see if they have an easy way to deal with that. But Exile to deal with the first threat out of Zatatog relatively cleanly, plus a back row, still tempo advantage here for Zatatog. And the Dust Tornado is going to come through to pop the set, which is a Sakuretsu armor. So now the board is actually wide open for Zatatog to make a play. They have a Dark Engrave if they want to go summon a Gigantes. Could be a pretty big moment here. And yeah, Gigantes is going to hit the board. Plus DD Warrior Lady for maximum damage. This is 3,400 coming in hot. And this is a 3-turn clock. And you have DD Warrior Lady to deal with the Sangan as well. So Zatatog with a pretty solid hand into what we've seen so far from Gororo. And they're just applying, like I said before, utilizing the first turn player advantage to apply tons of pressure. And Gororo, can you stabilize quickly, or will you just die before, you set up any sort of real defense here? Dust Shoot is huge as well to see what they have to play into. Oh, man. Okay, they see a hand of Sangan. Snatch Steal is huge. Creature Swap, Sinister Metamorphosis. Okay, so I think you definitely have to rip out the Sinister here to prevent meta plus Sinister plays. Sangan is annoying, but you have the DD Warrior Lady. Snatch is annoying. Zatatog, you hope you have like set MST or something. Ooh, this will be interesting, but I think grabbing the Sinister is probably the correct play regardless of what the two unknowns Zatatog is holding are. Yeah, so sending back that Sinister. You have to worry about Snatch Steal. You have to worry about Creature Swap. Let's see what Zatatog has hidden to deal with this stuff. But that's a pretty high value Dust Shoot, just knowing what your opponent's rocking with here. We're going to get normal summon Sangan plus Creature Swap. If you're Zatatog, what do you give them? You probably give them DD Warrior Lady? Right? I think that's fine. I guess it's a little awkward, though, because you give them DD Warrior Lady, they can just beat over your Sangan and not banish. And then Gororo gets the trigger with the Sangan, which is quite good. And then Gigantes can attack into DD Warrior Lady, but end up getting banished. If you give them Gigantes, they can beat... It's pretty similar, right? They beat over the Sangan this turn, get the trigger, and then you have to attack into your opponent's Sangan with the DD Warrior Lady. Or you can attack into your opponent's Gigantes with your own DD Warrior Lady. So I guess it actually ends up being pretty similar the way this plays out. Pending what these unknowns are, of course. But assuming these weren't real, I guess you would just give them the DD Warrior Lady, because then at least when like the weird crashing and trading stuff happens, you're dealing damage to your opponent in the Gigantes versus DD Warrior Lady step of that play. So yeah, you probably give him the DD Warrior Lady here. Gonna give her the Gigantes. Obviously, it can make more sense depending on the unknowns that I don't know about, right? We'll see what the play is here. Gigantes will attack over that Sangan. Okay, Mirror Force. Okay. In which case... Oh, I guess now you just have no answer to Snatch Steal is maybe the issue. And you didn't want your opponent to just be able to Snatch Steal the Gigantes. So you'd rather give them the Gigantes so that you can mirror force it so that they don't end up with Gigantes in main phase 2 when they use Snatch Steal is probably the play. I think that's fine. Yeah. And then main phase 2, do you snatch here? Yeah, you're gonna snatch the DD Warrior Lady, put up a wall. You know, they're not. You can't just crash the Sang into DD Warrior Lady because, like I said before, Garoro can just choose not to banish them, and then they'll just get the search for free. But you're also probably happy to like gain 1,000 life a turn. Oh, huge. Okay. I mean, if Zatadog had Breaker in hand that whole time, I don't think they did because they didn't shuffle their hand. But Breaker is an insane top deck here. This is just almost game, right? You know the last card in hand is Metamorphosis, which is dead. Oh my god, Breaker is crazy. Puts them down to 500. Holy moly. Yeah, gain the 1,000 from Snatch Steal for to add insult to injury. Oh, now you're just staring down. Super duper lethal. You know, the creature swap plus Snatch Steal was super tricky to play against, but Zatadog did it really well, and honestly, I think that was just top deck Breaker to completely bail them out here. And this is just looking like GG here. Breaker is such an insane card, man. Ooh, Kaiku. Kaiku is real, though. Okay. Kaiku walls out everything here, although it doesn't wall out. Yeah, I think you have to... No, Is this enough? You kind of need a back row, right? Because no matter what you kill, Zatotog has DD Warrior Lady, banish the Kaiku, attack with whatever is left for game. Now, I understand making them play it out, or you could have a back row here that's real. It almost doesn't matter what you kill. Kaiku kills Sangan, so at least you get the search. You can banish the Gigantes, turn them off additional Gigantes plays. Grab Sinister, sure. But no back row, yeah. There you go. Yeah, we knew the hand was just... Yeah, we knew the hand was Metamorphosis, so the Kaiku top deck ended up not doing anything. And there you go. Wow, 2-1. Earth Aggro takes it down against Go Control. Gororo, a little bit of a punt in game 1, but, you know, we don't know how the game would have ended up if they didn't start trying to beat in with damage for their Sinister. But it did end up giving Zatadog the opening to just kill them with the Goblin Attack Force Draw, which we saw. Game 2 was a complete blowout in Gororo's favor. Opening duo plus Dust Shoot. Zatadog had no plays, and Gororo could just close it out relatively quickly from there. And game 3 was pretty interesting. Blazing start here from Zatotog with a lot of really strong cards. They had the Dust Tornado. They had Dust Shoot. They had a pretty sticky turn here to get out of with Creature Swap plus Snatch Steal out of Gororo post Dust Shoot. But either top deck or Held Breaker to answer the Snatch Steal was completely backbreaking, and just from there able to close it out. Gororo was in top deck mode and just didn't have any answers. So really cool to see Earth Aggro taking down a game here against a control deck. Aggro decks, you can do it. You can beat control. Scapegoat is not, you know, as big a boogeyman as some people make it out to be sometimes, maybe. Really cool seeing Earth getting the dub here. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. I'll catch you all next time.